Travis.
Hello, nerds, and welcome. We are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis, and I'm joined as always by my fantastic co hosts, Eric and Ryan. We are without James as he is currently taking his final for some higher education class, and we wish him well during what is always the most stressful of times
Boo.
taking a test.
Education.
I like how you're booing someone for education, and that tells you everything you need to know about Eric.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Books are for nerds.
I did like 2 years of college. I didn't get a degree, but I was there.
D stands for diploma.
You could get one online. I mean, I can,
You can. You used to could just order one off the University of Phoenix. Except they cracked down on that. Too many people ratted them out.
Yeah.
Anyway, off of the topic of unaccredited universities, and on to our little round table of news. Does anybody have anything special they want to start with?
There's some cool stuff coming down.
I'll go last with mine just because that's kind of what sparked the episode.
Okie dokie.
All right. Let's see. My big ones are all going to be probably movies and television related. First, I want to talk about the casting choices for The Hunt for Gollum, which is the upcoming Lord of the Rings television show. Andy Serkis shared that Viggo Mortensen is thrilled, quote, about Jamie Dornan taking over his role of Aragorn in the upcoming film Hunt for Gollum. I think I actually agree with him on this one. I think the casting looks cool. I'm kind of about it. I think he's got the right cut. And you know what? If he's got Viggo's good vibes, then I'm here for it. And we also have,
nice.
Yeah,
it's always nice when the previous actor is on board with someone taking over. I think more people should do it, like we saw it with The Witcher when we transitioned from who should have still been The Witcher in season 4 to the poor guy that had to try and live up to unrealistic expectations in Witcher season 4.
It wasn't even an unrealistic expectation. I still feel like that was a poor casting choice.
Well, I feel for the actor, right? Because
yes,
like,
he stood no chance, even if he had been a fantastic actor.
Yeah, like he would have had to busted a glass ceiling smooth off in order to get any kind of attention after that recast. He was stepping into a mud pit, and I feel bad for the actor because he didn't do badly. I think he did just fine, but even I, as a fan, was so irritated about the circumstances around the recasting that I didn't give him a chance.
I mean, I watched it, but again, you have somebody who does such a stellar job in the beginning, and then everything goes down, they leave. There's no casting option. Like when somebody does that good, you have to go from somebody who does a fantastic job of it to somebody who does a once in a lifetime performance, and the chances of that happening is just so unbelievably slim that it's almost non-existent. So
we definitely
I have nothing against Hemsworth at all. I think he's fine.
Yeah,
I've liked some of the stuff he's been in, but there was no chance that was ever gonna take off.
Yeah, but we should definitely do an episode about roles like this that happen, because this isn't the only time. It's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, but there's been some other changes that have happened during shows or movies and stuff like that. Like even we could talk about the Snape one a little bit. Once I get to see some episodes with the new Snape in, just to kind of I think it'd be a fun topic, especially in the nerdverse.
I wish they would remake bad movies instead of remaking good movies or shows. Like I don't need a remake of a show that was already good.
See,
I would like a remake of a movie that was absolutely terrible and see if we can do a better job.
I think I agree with you, with the exception of I am enjoying a lot of spinoffs here recently. That's not normally my vibe. Normally I fight against spinoffs pretty hard because it feels like a cash grab. But I've liked a bunch of them here recently.
It depends on the spinoff. Like I'm talking about like straight up reboots, like where they just remake the series that's already been made, like the remake of the Harry Potter thing. I don't need a remake of Harry Potter. Do you know what I really need is a remake of Eragon?
Yeah,
they're doing that.
They need to.
They are.
That movie was awful.
Yeah.
Now's your chance to take something that was an absolute dog turd and make it into something good. Like that's what we should be focusing on. It's like this movie did terrible and it was really bad.
We can't get too excited about anything coming out in the next, I'm going to say probably 5 years. It's all just going to be AI slop.
I don't think it'll be quite that bad.
I for one am excited for our new AI overlords.
He says out loud for the AI overlords.
Yeah, I'm gonna still have a job because
No.
I was a sycophant.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, that was my bit of nerdy news. I think I'm excited for the Hunt for Gollum. It looks cool. I'm going to try to keep my pessimism about AI in the art spheres to a minimum, but I think it looks good.
I mean, it's just because AI is better artists than actual artists. That's what the problem is. No, speaking of AI, that actually leads straight into my news, and that is TKO has basically said that they're going to replace a lot of the writers' room at WWE with AI-assisted scripts, was what they call it. So
What? They're
Yep.
using AI to write the scripts?
Yep. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm
I'm not gonna say that's why things have been terrible as far as storylines go, but like now at least I have a culprit. I have a strong suspicion.
Wow.
Yeah, they straight up just posted it like online. They were like, "We're excited to announce that moving forward, we're going to be using AI assisted."
Oh yeah, well, I mean, most of the big business and big corporations are making huge pushes for the acceptance of AI. You look at the Super Bowl back in February, right? I don't know if y'all noticed, but 4 out of 5 commercials during the Super Bowl was in support of AI and using AI to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the hot ticket thing right now.
Yeah.
Is AI.
Well, and it costs us more money. It saves the rich people money. Of course, it's going to get pushed.
Yeah. We're gonna segue that piece of news into my next piece, which is Jerry Conway passed away.
Oh,
For
yeah.
those of you that don't know, he was one of the old school writers for Spider-Man. He did a lot of art and storyboard work for that. He also was the individual who created my favorite Marvel character of all time, and that's Frank Castle. And so, big bummer that Jerry Conway passed away. But as it sits right now, most of his IPs that he helped create with Marvel and DC are actually in really, really good hands at the moment. So I'm not going to be super upset. I am bummed that he passed away, but at least they're carrying on his legacy with these characters.
So I will, on the subject of
death
of Gary Conway, I do want to hit a few of the big highlights from his career. This includes writing at age 19, Amazing Spider-Man 121 and 122, which is the death of Gwen Stacy in 1973. He co-created The Punisher with artist Ross Andru in 1974.
The greatest comic book character ever.
He created 2 DC comic mainstays in the form of Firestorm and Power Girl, alongside Al Milgrom and Wally Wood, as well as credited with the creation of Vixen, which I didn't know, which is cool. Batman and Robin in the 1980s, he introduced the second Robin, Jason Todd, and the villain Killer Croc during his time on Batman and Detective Comics.
I didn't know he was part of the introduction for Killer Croc. I knew he had worked on Batman.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Jerry Conway, heck of a dude in the comic world. Big loss, but his legacy lives on because all of those characters are still being written. So
and will be for a long time.
Yeah, it's not like they're getting rid of Frank Castle or Firestorm or Batman and Robin or Killer Croc or
Power Girl. Yeah,
Power Girl. Yeah, feel like that legacy's pretty safe and cemented. And I think Gwen Stacy's going to go down as one of the most tragic comic book deaths in history, mostly because in 90% of continuities, she has stayed dead.
Yep. Well, and let's face it, her death being such a popular moment has led to extremely popular characters now, like Ghost Spider, which is Gwen Stacy as Spider-Man from one of the Spider-Verses. I think she's an amazing character, one of my absolute all-time favorites. Not just in the Spider-Verse, but I just think in Marvel. To round us out here, he does have an 8-year run, being one of the few writers to have long-term success on the Justice League of America from 1978 to 1986, and a brief stint as Marvel's editor-in-chief in 1976. And here's the kicker. This is the little weird cherry on top, and I'm throwing this one out and dedicating it to our buddy Ugly, who is one of the biggest Spider-Man fans I know. He also wrote the first modern Marvel and DC crossover with Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man in 1976.
Dope.
So our hats off to
Spider-Man
you.
would win.
No, it
Hats
wouldn't.
off to you, Jerry Conway. You will be missed.
Hold on. I have to address this. In what possible universe does Spider-Man ever beat
doesn't.
Superman?
He doesn't. It's
He's
not
smarter.
the way. Okay, I'm going to put you to this one.
All right.
Superman
gonna go-
beats Spider-Man the same way he beats Hulk, and here's how. He uses his super speed, which is almost the speed of light, to pick him up and throw him into space.
We don't know.
We
Reaction
Yeah,
time,
we do.
spider
We
senses.
100% know. Spider
Reaction time,
sense doesn't
spider
matter
senses.
because your reaction time is not ever going to be fast enough to overcome the fact that Superman is that much faster than you.
Yeah, you're
I'm gonna-
talking if he could, he would never get hit, ever.
Batman did it. I'm just saying. Batman
did
can
what?
do it. Spider-Man can do it. Batman beat
Batman
Superman.
literally had to poison Superman to win.
All right, I'm going to say the thing as a Batman fan that no Batman fan likes to hear. You want to know why Batman wins? Ignoring
he
the
has
Mary
better-
Sue aspect.
He has better
He-
plot armor than Superman does.
He cheats. He cheats. He doesn't care how he wins. He just wins.
That's fair. But again,
Yeah.
in no possible reality is there an outcome in which
No.
Peter Parker as Spider-Man overcomes Clark Kent as Superman. It's not
What-
happening.
What's he going to do? Buy some kryptonite with his, part-time pizza delivery earnings?
Yeah, the most rare mineral on the planet. He's just gonna
Owned
pick
by
some
the
up
most
from Lex
powerful
Luthor.
people? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You never know.
I'm
So
all right.
my
Anyway.
Let's put you in a UFC cage with Cain Velasquez and let me know when you win one of those fights. That is
Yeah.
when
I'm
Spider-Man
not that
beats Superman.
smart though. You're missing the point.
It
Spider-Man
doesn't
is
Neither is
matter.
Superman.
intelligent.
Okay, let's put
Spider-Man,
a Nobel.
not
Let's put a
Superman.
Nobel Prize winner in
Spider-Man
there
is
with
that
Cain
smart.
Velasquez. They're smarter than Cain Velasquez. Do you think they're winning the fist fight?
I mean,
Do you
probably
think-
not.
Now, all that being said,
It's
I'm gonna
not
step in.
happening.
and I'll be the first to say it at Crossing the Nerdverse. It's just my opinion. This does not represent the opinion of our business as a whole. Power scaling's dumb. You shouldn't do it. It's fun to talk about, but if you're one of those people that get actually like prickly
By
about
the
it,
math.
yeah, don't. There's no consistency in writing, and so you want to know who else is beating Superman? Mike Tyson. Just human Mike Tyson. So
I mean, if
That's
they write it
believable
right.
though.
there's no consistency in
that
power
right hook.
scaling. There's no point in comparing it, and there are a lot of characters that do not get treated fairly. I'm going to bring up Starfire. She's been
Hold
a-
on. I have a very important point to make now. Mike Tyson beat Superman. Jake Paul beat Mike Tyson. Jake Paul could be
Yeah.
Superman.
Jake Paul could be Superman.
I mean, are they wrestling or? how
No,
are
you're
they
thinking
doing that?
Logan Paul.
Oh yeah,
There's,
sorry.
there's two of them.
Yeah, I always forget that.
Oh man, yeah. So
Both of
don't do
them.
power scaling, and you can't cherry pick your fictions. And so if you want to power scale Superman, you have to admit that Mike Tyson's stronger. So
Okay, so my news: Xbox.
Yeah,
Xbox
what
has
you got?
done something incredible, and they are kind of going back to what they were. The emblem has changed and become something simple again. They've changed it. I think they changed the name across everything, so it's no longer Microsoft. I think it's just Xbox. They're changing to get away from the console PC tribalism that happens, which I think is a very genius idea. It's going to do a lot of business for Microsoft as a whole, because there is that tribalism, which is why we're going to talk about it. Where there are a lot of diehard people, and we've done an episode last year sometime about this. There are a lot of people that are just, I only do PC. PC is me. And other people are like console all day, every day, twice on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So Microsoft with this new, I think she's just in charge of the Xbox console side. But with her running it now, I wish I knew her name. She's made a lot of smart moves, and I think the biggest one being taking away the differences with Microsoft gaming on PC and Microsoft gaming on Xbox. It's now just one unified thing, kind of bringing at least that part of the gaming world together. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a huge uptick for Xbox as a whole. So, and it'll be interesting to see how fans take it. That's what I'm very curious about. The diehard PC, diehard console people, like, how are they going to take this going forward?
This is 100% a reactionary measure from Xbox due to the amount of negative interaction they had after the changes to Game Pass, where it went from like $15 or $20 a month all the way up to like $60 a month, or $40 a month, I guess is what it was. I think this is them trying to reel people back in again after losing a phenomenal amount. You're looking at me skeptically, like they didn't lose a phenomenal amount. Their servers literally got overloaded with people trying to cancel. Eric,
no. I'm not disagreeing with that. The only thing I was going to say is that I agree with you in regards to the Xbox Game Pass thing, 100%. But I don't think they're changing the dynamic of the console for that reason alone. I think the bigger thing is, again, the tribalism and bringing both sides together. I think the lady that's running it now is very smart to do that, because I think you said before the episode, like the pre-show stuff, they had already adjusted the price for Game Pass too. So I do think that she's really trying to get rid of that tribalism that's just going on. I know I keep saying that word like crazy. It's a new word for me. So everyone should be happy that I'm learning words. But yeah, that's just something that I feel like they're trying to destroy and just make more money, because they're the only console right now too. If you look at where everybody agrees we should get rid of this only on Xbox thing. So like they're still the only console that's going with everybody, like everybody gets our games. PlayStation already walked themselves back, and Xbox is still like, no. We want PlayStation to release our games and give us money. So like Xbox is just being geniuses in the gaming world right now and just evolving at a ridiculous rate compared to Sony, Nintendo, and everyone else.
Well, and I do want to jump in, and because I think both of y'all are absolutely correct. They lost an astronomical amount of money on Game Pass, and they lost an astronomical amount of fans. But the Xbox is going to suffer less from fan loss than several other companies are, because many people will leave their Xbox simply to go to their PC. Now, I do think that we should take a solid stance, and this is going to be larger scope, I think, but a solid stance on listening to them or watching them make rollbacks or changes, because I want companies to listen. I mean, we look at the Helldivers deal a couple years ago, right? One of the most downvoted votes in posts in Reddit history, to the point where not only did they walk it back and they say, hey, okay, cool, we listened, we made the changes you wanted. But then they memorialized it in the game in the form of a special item you could wear. I think it was a cape that showed the downvote trend. And so I do think that we should notice and celebrate when corporations listen to the fan base and make changes accordingly. Microsoft is not one that normally does that. I think we can all agree. Normally they don't give a shit about their fans, their fan base, or anything, and they do whatever the hell they please.
Yeah, I mean, that's been pretty typical all in all. Honestly, I mean, for a lot of these bigger gaming, even studios for a little while kind of got to that, well, we're going to feed you what we feed you, and then you just deal with it. Yeah, and I feel like it's the backlash is finally starting to catch up to a lot of them, to the point where after... when did Black Flag come out originally?
I can check. One sec.
But they're finally doing a remaster of Black Flag.
Looks amazing.
And its pre-sales are already astronomically high, because that was probably the best Assassin's Creed game that Ubisoft made.
Oh, it's definitely a fan
favorite. Hands down.
So it was released October 29th of 2013, so 13 years ago.
Real quick, I just want to throw this in before we get too far away from it. So the name is Asha Sharma. Mm-hmm. That is the new CEO of Xbox.
And the one making the changes?
Yeah, she took over in February of 2026, succeeding the longtime Phil Spencer. Yep. So she's the lady making all these changes. It's going to be very interesting.
Hell yeah! I hope she continues on the trend. I hope she does a damn good job.
Yeah, I mean, they're already talking about doing...
is she's...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I was like, they're already talking about doing another price drop for Game Pass.
Well, I mean, they're gonna have to.
She's got
they're talking about it. They're talking about it going down to $23 a month for Xbox, and then as I think down to like $14 or $15 a month for PC.
So right now with her, she's got limited gaming experience in her history. She has a very modest, like, personal gaming history too, I guess. So some people were skeptics about it. I think it's a good thing because, like, you don't want someone that has a lot of gaming history kind of running this. And the big thing she's so far done was, like we mentioned, she dropped the Microsoft gaming thing. It's all just Xbox now, unifies everything across all of it. She's got the new Xbox logo. She did the adjustment for Game Pass, bringing it downward. She also emphasized daily active player things. And the last thing that she's pushing for is, I guess, the Project Helix. That's all just kind of stuff that I was able to pull up real quick in regards to what she's done so far. So it's going to be very interesting to see how she keeps it going. Like, it feels like just from putting the price down with Game Pass, she's smart enough. She's got a bigger view on the sort of the nerdy world than maybe the predecessor did.
Oh, for those of you that are listening that maybe don't know what Helix is in reference to, Helix has been thrown around a few times. It's the primary name given to Xbox's unification console, the one that's going to hybridize console gaming, PC gaming, and all of that jazz into one singular household unit. I think it was originally the inspiration for the Xbox One because they were trying to make the Xbox One a unified entertainment system where it covered your television and your movies and your everything. Helix is their next attempt at that.
And no, this is not an F Sony podcast episode. Survive.
Yeah, it's really not. Yeah.
We're going to get to the console comparisons because, in all honesty, after playing the Xbox X and the PS5 side by side, I now have a preference between the two.
So I think we should just continue on.
I'm going to go on to that.
I think we should just continue right into consoles because we've already started talking about it.
Yeah, we're already in the console wars. Might as well touch it.
Yeah, I was an Xbox person for the longest time. I really was. Played the PS5 and the Xbox side by side. I think I prefer the PlayStation, in all seriousness. Oh, you don't have to be sorry, Survive. You're good, man. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good, dog.
Yeah, shout out to Survive in our chat. Very loyal member. Glad to have you here.
But yeah, I really do prefer the PS5 over the Xbox. The only thing is not every game that I play regularly is cross-capable, and most of my friends being either on PC or Xbox, I can play with them much easier on it. However, because we're going to have to touch on it.
Thank you, baby.
The exclusives to Sony are far superior.
Yep.
And it's not even close.
Well, so here's the thing. We just brought it up a minute ago, right? We're looking at the tactics that are being taken and who's walking back, who's listening to fans, and who's not. And the fans are an interesting place for my observations on this when it comes to exclusives. I know plenty of people, and I'm one of them, that I think console exclusives are kind of dumb. I think it isolates fandoms. I think it is a tactic to create controversy in the market in order to defend a console. Now, there's other reasons and lots of other very good reasons to have console exclusive games. However, I find it fascinating watching Sony take one step where they're saying, hey, we're still going to have our exclusives. We're going to keep them. We're going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing. And we're going to lean into the tradition of it. And almost the exact same announcement day, Xbox goes, we're going to do the exact opposite. We're giving everything to everyone. We're unifying everything. They did. They took completely opposite roads. So we'll definitely find out which one's better now.
So since we're talking about games and stuff like that, we got to mention, like, one thing, the difference between Sony and Microsoft in regards to that before we get into, like, performance issue, like things like that with the consoles compared to PCs. So Sony has to have exclusives just because they're not big into the PC market like Microsoft is. Mm-hmm. So that's where you're going to see the big difference. Like, I don't disagree with your statement about exclusivity is not great. Like, Sony could make money if Xbox and PC played their games. But what people don't really think about is the fact that Sony needs you to buy their console. Yep. What's going to get you to buy their console if they share their exclusives? that's really where it comes down to with Sony. I absolutely think everything should be shared, but your problem is Sony is so small in the PC market that if they share their exclusives, PlayStation will go away.
Well, and here's the
That's
kicker.
a realistic statement. Like it's not false.
No, you're absolutely right. And they've leaned on that for many years. And here's the kicker. And I'm going to say this just so everybody knows, as someone who has been a loyal console knight for decades to Xbox. The PlayStation didn't have the integration into other markets, like you just said. And so they had to lean on exclusive games and console performance. And that exactly is why PlayStation was a superior console in a lot of regards to many Xbox consoles, nearly for the entire history of the console war. That has not been the case with some of the more recent stuff.
So currently I'm looking at the current stats of it. As far as year-to-year sales, like console comparison, Sony holds roughly 71% of the current gen, making it clearly the leader between the Xbox X and the PS5, right? It's absolutely dominating
by over 20%.
Yeah. And so big nod to that. So Xbox sales roughly 34 million units worldwide, which is nothing to shake a stick at. However, you compare it to the PS5, which is talking between 84 and 86 million units worldwide. Big difference, right? Like that is just an astronomical leap. You also happen to cover some other things. Their console exclusives, I think Sony's strategy of keeping them exclusive is gone. I think what they're going to do is the same thing that Microsoft was originally talking about, of making it exclusive for a year or two and then bringing it open to the market. Obviously, that has shifted on Xbox's mindset, which I think is the right thing, mostly because everything being made for the Xbox was going to be on PC anyway. So making something console exclusive just didn't make sense. I think Sony's right in keeping console exclusives to their console for a year or two before releasing it out on Steam for like a PC port. Mostly because if people desperately want to play that game, or they want to be the first people to play that game, they're going to get a PlayStation, right? And I don't think that's a terrible strategy moving forward, because I don't think you can go toe to toe with the sheer software power that Microsoft can bring to bear.
So I think it'll be interesting because, like, when you look at consoles compared to like PCs, we sort of talked about it before the episode.
Yeah, a little pre-episode prep.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on top of just the exclusivity though with it. Like, so the big thing consoles will always have going for them is they're easy to set up. You just literally plug the thing in and turn it on and hook it to your Wi-Fi. You download updates, of course, and there has been cases like Travis has brought up, like where there can be issues with your installed stuff. Generally speaking, it's not there.
That's a very rare problem. It happens, but it's not going to shut down the system.
Right. So it's easy to plug and play. Anybody can do it. You don't need to be tech savvy or anything like that. It's much easier to just play in your living room with like your family and stuff like that. Game nights. You see it all the time in commercials. And on top of those things now, though, like when you look at PS5 has some high specs. Like they aren't even releasing games right now that touch high-end specs for consoles.
That is fact.
So like right now, like generally actually most consoles, video game developers never touch the high-end spec because the new system comes out before they do. So that's some things with consoles like people look at and really appreciate. And I'm not dogging on PC because I do both. But the simplicity and like the more the family orientation is kind of what consoles what draw people into your consoles. That's your upside if you want to get into your console world, on top of, like we mentioned, some games that are exclusive to console. That's just some upsides to your console world.
That's the kicker for me, I think, is you get into console exclusivity, right? Which is the major topic everyone is discussing right now, is exclusivity. And I think leaning on that to carry your brand is not a good move. I think that is a very cheap move. It's more extortion than it is brand loyalty. I think PlayStation could easily lean on the fact that they make a very quality console. And if they continue to innovate and make a better console than Xbox makes, they don't need to lean on their exclusives as much.
But they do, just because you're not going to have as much reason to get a PlayStation if it's on both systems.
If it's
you're just
better.
Not. But your problem is still going to run into the fact that like they're making things, and we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute about it, like Steam Deck and Rog and stuff like that. The plugin you can play
the
on
Switch
your TV.
2.
Right, like so you got things that you can do. So Sony, though, their selling point is always going to be exclusivity, and I don't think they'll ever go away from it, because me personally, I won't buy a PlayStation if I can just get it on my PC. There'll be no point because I already have it.
I think that if they, just as a thought experiment, if they leaned a little further away from exclusivity, or maybe leaned much heavier into Travis's model of 1 year exclusives and then open market, having a console that is ultimately vastly superior or vastly more affordable or available is going to win that war. And I think there's plenty of people that are very PlayStation loyal. I know lots of people that they've been PlayStation since PS1. They've never bothered to switch. They've never bothered to move. And the console wars, that's what sticks in my head, because everybody had an opinion during the console wars. I think that we saw the downside to availability with the Switch 2. Nintendo has some of the most loyal and dedicated fans of any gaming industry out there. And they know it. And Nintendo is also famous for defending their territory.
They have the most exclusive IPs.
Yeah, and they will keep them that way. They will fight tooth and nail to shut you down if you smell like their games.
Yeah.
And then they released Switch 2. The lashback at the Switch 2 for price tag alone was unbelievable. The fans were in an uproar, including people that were extremely loyal. And so I think making a console widely available, well-crafted, and affordable is going to be a lot more appealing to 95% of gamers than one that's got a 10% better frame rate or whatever.
Yeah. So we need to talk real quick about some of the downside to consoles, because we got to get to PCs.
Yep.
So now when you start when you start looking at consoles, some of the downsides are you do generally have to purchase PlayStation Plus or Game Pass to do the multiplayer experience. And in regards to that, Survive brought it up. One of the last upside real quick, multiplayer games playing across all the consoles, amazing. Glad that's happened. Glad it's going to keep happening. And that is one way to kind of get around some of the exclusivity as it goes further. Maybe you could look at just multiplayer options on other systems. That would be a great way to do it. But back to the console kind of negativities. For me, it's definitely the PS Plus and the Game Pass. Now the ups, they're not the worst thing in the world, but they are kind of, it is kind of shitty. I already paid for the internet. Why do I got to pay extra money to play with my buddies? Travis.
I said, on with downsides with consoles. You're working on a very concrete shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
There's no upgrading a piece of a time to keep your console limping along. Once it becomes the outdated one and they stop making games for it, that's it. Like, you're working on a very, like, it'll still be operable, right? Because there's
but you have a half-life on consoles.
Yeah, you can go back and play your older games, but eventually they're going to stop making games for your console, and you're going to have to go to the next gen if you're going to keep doing it. Well, I think that compares to the PC advantage of you can upgrade a piece at a time to keep going, or you can deal with settings. You can toggle whatever, game settings to the lowest possible deal, and you can really limp a PC on for a very long time, to the point where I think James has the record for our group of keeping the absolute oldest running PC that we have out of our core gaming group. And so he has limped his along upgrading a piece at a time. Now, sometimes he balls out and upgrades a bunch of stuff and gets it back up to like above modern. But
but
yeah,
they'll coast on that for a while. So
yeah, you're at a severe disadvantage in regards to the shelf life on consoles, because once they're done making games for it, they're done for it, and that's it. And a lot of the times the next gen isn't going to be fully backwards compatible. I remember the big stink between the Xbox, was it One and the 360. Everybody was devastated to find out there was not going to be full backwards compatibility.
Yep. Well, and honestly, compatibility and storage, I think, is a big point. So this got famous within our group itself, and this one was on the Series X for Xbox. I had a Series X for Xbox. I got it. It was when they released the two different versions, where one was like the Slim or whatever. Anyway, this Xbox continues to function. One of my daughters currently use my old Xbox for their stuff. However, I like to call it the half-life on Xboxes. And you don't see this as much at PlayStation, as far as I know. PlayStation, you can ride a PlayStation through to the next release. Xbox, it makes me conspiratorial on how odd they misfunction. And so there were several games that we would play, and this was around the release of the particle physics engines. This was used dominantly in Borderlands, Tiny Tina's, Destiny, as well as Fallout 76 were the biggest culprits for me. And they convinced my Xbox every time there was a fire on screen, it was on fire. And my Xbox would shut down.
Your Xbox gained sentience and a deep, deep fear of fire.
Deep fear of fire. And I had it open, ventilated. I was doing everything that I can to keep it running. But there was something in that Xbox that was terrified of fire and would shut down and say, "I'm overheating," every time it was on screen.
Eric just misspelled backwards.
Oh, I did. Anyways.
Backwards.
So the next thing with consoles, that just to kind of expand on what we've just said about them, is not only our consoles have a shelf life in the sense of like playing, but like the online capabilities, like they literally stop supporting the online portions of systems.
Yep.
So you can't do anything online with it anymore. The upside is to that a little bit is the fact that usually it's 2 gens out. So like I think they just stopped supporting PlayStation 3 stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, this can happen in gen too. Elite Dangerous is one we discussed in pre-show. They just upped and stopped supporting Elite Dangerous halfway through the run.
Right.
Go to PC, nerds.
So I'm just saying, like, that's another thing with consoles. It's definitely probably the biggest thing is the shelf life. Does anybody have anything else for consoles? Because I would like to get to PCs.
No, I mean, the last thing is Survive mentions, like, non-backwards compatibility for digital is fine, but if you have a physical disc, you should be able to play it on anything that has a disc reader, and I 100% agree. If I have a hard copy of a game, I don't care. If I'm 3 generations past it, it should be able to just read my disc.
You know what? I'm actually going to elaborate on that before we leave the console wars behind. There are 2 main issues that I have with the console, and they are an enslavement technique. Issue number 1, we've already kind of discussed on. I hate the fact I have to buy my console. I have to pay for my internet. I then have to pay my console to access my internet every month. And then I have to pay my console's access to internet in order to play games. Now, the Game Pass is not a have to. I get that. That's an opt-in kind of thing. I do think that they are wildly overcharging for it, but it is if you don't want it, don't pay for it. However, I can't play anything on my Xbox unless I pay for Xbox Game Pass. Or no, not Game Pass, Xbox Live. The silver for an Xbox, that is your Xbox is plugged into the internet and working, you can't play games on. And here's why. Because, and here's issue number 2, owning the disc doesn't mean anything. It's just a DRM to let you download the game onto your console anyway.
Yeah, the always online function for single player games is something that Ryan and I have gone into at length on how frustrating it is, because I shouldn't have to have internet to play a single player game that doesn't have any online shenanigans anyway. Like,
and you know what?
Should be nothing stopping me from playing. What was the one that was? They re-released it with like an upgrade. Oblivion, when they redid Oblivion and re-released it. You had to be online. At no point was anyone like, I wish Oblivion was multiplayer. Like, no, that is the most single player of single player games. Why must I be on the internet to play Oblivion?
Yep. Well, and here's where it really bites you in the ass. Survive brought it up in our chat just a little while ago. Because I have to use my disc to download the game onto my Xbox to play the game, I have to be able to pay for the internet access, even though it's a game on a disc, and it uses my Xbox's internal storage. On an N64, I could have 500 games in my library. Plug it in and it would run. I could just decide at the moment. On Xbox, you better have your 5 flipping favorites, because switching it out is going to be uninstalling and reinstalling, which takes, 12 hours.
Depending on your internet, yeah.
Yeah. And they sell these external storage devices that are solid states and all this kind of stuff, external storage devices for Xbox. They all suck. I've never bought one out of 8 that has worked right.
This guy, the Seagate insert, is the only one I've had that has lasted long term. All the other ones had a shelf life of like 1 to 2 years before.
Oh yeah, and you can't play games from them. I've tried it forever, even on single player games where I didn't have to worry about connection timing. I didn't have to worry about anything. Darkest Dungeon it could disconnect right in the middle of a fight. It shouldn't matter. But it would just crash the game out because it was stored on an external hard drive.
I can't get my hard drive plugged back in.
Yeah.
All right.
Stored it local, it went away.
All right, so we all agree consoles have their ups and their downsides. I would recommend, if you're not tech savvy and stuff like that, just grab your PlayStation, your Xbox, whatever.
Yep.
Plug more tech savvy, you got to look at what we're going to talk about next. So the big thing with PCs, we've kind of hit on some points just in discussion of the consoles. Easy to upgrade. Like, generally speaking, they are not difficult to upgrade. There's 400 YouTube channels to show you how to upgrade any part you want. Now,
I do need to jump in real quick. So when we're talking about ease and convenience, you're going to get more from a plug-and-play console than you will a plug-and-play PC. We understand that there are plug-and-play PCs. We get that. What we're about to discuss needs tech savvy in the way of upgrades, like Eric is getting into. And so I can hear y'all down in the comments already. I know there is open the box and play PCs and laptops. That is not what we are discussing when it comes to comparatives. Continue, Eric. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh no, that's no problem. Yeah, there's definitely you could buy your PC straight out of the box. You can do that. You can build your own. There's about a million different ways you can do it. I would always recommend, if you're going the PC route, generally speaking, you spend more in the initial thing. It'll last a bit longer. So PC is more of a longevity thing, I would say, than a console. Like, you really are going to get years and years and years out of it. And it's still going to play super high-end games after a year or two that are just ridiculously spec, because specs for games on PC are far and away better than anything you're going to experience on a console.
Yeah, your performance is set on a console, right? The performance is already set for you. You don't have to worry about any of it. Now, if you're not a super tech savvy person, you can still run a gaming PC setup. I have recently made the transition from almost exclusively console gaming over to PC. It has not been nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Again, there is now access to a gajillion different YouTube channels that will teach you how to do all of the fun little things. My favorite thing, honestly, I won't say favorite thing. The thing that's made it easiest for me is, if I'm experiencing a problem with my PC, I currently have a device that is also connected to the internet that is not my computer, that I can look up solutions on. And that has made it way easier for me, because when my only device that was connected to the internet was my computer, and it suddenly stopped working, I had no way to Google how to fix my problem.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to fix a computer if it's broken and you need the computer to look up how to fix the computer.
Now, the next thing with PC that is a great thing is just the fact that you can use a mouse and keyboard. Now, with consoles, sometimes it can be kind of tricky. But PCs, it's a native thing, so it's really nice because there's just certain games that are better with a mouse and keyboard than a controller. I much prefer my first person shooters and my MMOs to have my mouse and keyboard as compared to the controller. So
I
that's another upside to PCs.
I'm game to game on whether or not I'm using a controller or my mouse and keyboard. If I am playing something like Baldur's Gate 3, I want mouse and keyboard. I've tried playing it
Yes.
with the controller. I have to do a whole lot of mapping, and that gets very frustrating for me because
Mhm.
I have a keyboard. I can hotkey things however I want. It makes it very easy for a game like that.
Yep.
We get into something like Space Marine 2. I hate playing that game on mouse and keyboard. I don't want to press WSAD to walk around and then have 2 different things to turn my screen, and then I don't have to put my thumb in a weird position to throw a grenade. Not for me, man. I 100% want to have my controller. Same thing for like, actually most of my shooters, I want a controller. The only
I
one
like
I've played that was
mouse.
mouse and keyboard on a shooter that I think I preferred was crapola. I'm drawing a
Call of
blank on the
Duty?
name of the game. No. Call of Duty, I'm still
Battlefield?
back to controller. No, Battlefield, I'm still back to controller. It was a goofy, like, free game on Steam that James convinced me to get. And I 100% prefer mouse and keyboard over it because you're making
Fortnite?
big. No, I don't play
Nah.
Fortnite. I don't like shooting at someone and having them turn into a 4-story building. I'm not a big fan of that.
But the nice thing
Yeah.
with PCs, though, this is another upside with PCs is the controller layout and setup that you can do
Yeah.
with a PC.
Oh, you can
It's
100%
actually-
customize.
Yeah,
Like-
which is actually better than consoles. So like your way you play games on a PC is actually a little bit better than consoles. So that's another upside with PC.
Yeah.
And then the
Absolutely.
last thing to me that's a big upside, you guys can jump in after this if you got any other ones, but the last thing for me is just I don't have to buy a subscription to anything else to just play online. Like
100%.
I know Ryan's huge with that. But that's my last thing is I don't need PC. I think you need Game Pass to play their games though online multiplayer, don't you? If you want to play with other people that do Game Pass,
Depends
Isn't it if
on-
you want to play.
Depends on how you purchased it.
Yeah, it depends on how you
If you
purchase
purchase the
Okay.
game through like the Microsoft Store and you run it through Game Pass, yes, you have to have Game Pass in order to run the game. If you have purchased said game through Steam, you can still play with other people that bought it on Game Pass if it's cross compatible, but it has to be cross compatible from the two. So if you've purchased it,
Yeah, Age of Empires, that is a fact. Call out
I want,
Survive.
oh god, there's no way I would play Age of Empires with a controller. I would lose
Yep.
my absolute mind. Sorry, that got me way sidetracked.
It's all good. I just wanted to post that
I
up.
just-
I
yeah,
thought it was a good one.
The big yellow banner posted up, and I had to read it. But man, that totally derailed my train of thought. Where am I? Michigan,
Sorry.
Texas, Minnesota?
We were, maybe, but we were just talking about like in regards to paying for Game Pass. And
Oh, yeah.
PS Plus and not having to with our PCs.
No, you don't have to. And it depends on like how you want to go about it. I know my friend still keeps Microsoft Game Pass specifically for his computer to get access to that games library, which is again fine. That's a personal preference. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you purchase it on Steam, you can just get online and play with people. You can also play with people that have it on Xbox or PS5 as long as it is
Okay.
cross compatible. But that's going to
I
be
just couldn't remember.
that's going to be a preference game to game.
I just couldn't remember as to how it worked. I thought so because I played Halo through Steam, so I was pretty sure I played with people on Xbox. So, yeah, so that's your last upside that I'm truly thinking of in regards to PC. Like we said, it's a little bit more tech savvy stuff. You got to do a little bit of things like that. Like we'll go into that when we talk about some of the negatives with PCs because it does have obviously a few and different ones than you would think with your consoles. But yeah, what do you guys got any other big upsides or anything to PC?
You know, I think that another one I didn't consider until you brought it up actually was the mouse keyboard. Now, generally get very, very defensive when it comes to mouse and keyboard. I think that there are so many people that so vehemently defend playing on mouse and keyboard that they'll actually attack other people and mock other people for using a controller. And that is something that frustrates me to no end. But I love controllers. You know what I can do on my PC? I can plug my controller into it, and my controller will work. You know what I can't do on my Xbox? Plug my keyboard into it and have my keyboard work.
You can order a special one.
Yeah, I can get a special one.
You're not going to play any games with it, I don't think.
It's only for people that want that 1/100th of a second faster reflex time on Call of Duty, so that they can get that kill earlier.
You're still gonna get slayed by people on PC.
It's that weeb deals. So while you were studying, I was playing Call of Duty.
Do you remember the series on YouTube called Battlefield Friends?
Yeah. Just unlock the buy button for my knife.
Do you have a girlfriend? And the guy goes, well, yeah. And he's like, do you guys go on dates? And he goes, well, sometimes. And he's like, stop.
You got a shit bucket?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, Eric, you really crushed something I didn't consider up to that point. Is on my PC, I can plug my controller in. I can play it however I want to. And I think that's a fantastic point of view. Survive 100%.
That's a good point. That is a good upside.
Yep.
Is
TeamSpeak,
communication,
Discord.
Options.
Yep.
The gaming community for PC is a lot bigger and better and easier to navigate than consoles.
It's also
so I didn't think about that one.
It's also a lot more confusing. We've done episodes before on toxic communities and trolling and that kind of stuff. You're going to get that no matter where you go. What I dislike about having such a larger community on PC, not necessarily with the trolling, is it's more difficult to find reliable information. You know, you can't go look at a 5-star rating on Steam and believe it anymore. You can't look at the comments and be like, oh, this is a good game, a bad game, or has these problems, until 10,000 people have all said the exact same thing. And I've gotten to the point now I don't even look at the comments because they're all just bots. So
I got one more positive side for PC. Demos. It's easier to get demos and stuff like that to try games out.
That is a very good point.
That's a very good point.
I hadn't even considered, but yeah, you can get way more demos on the PC than you can on console anymore, which is a shame because you see demos all the time on consoles. It's crazy.
You know what? That actually is going to come into...
I miss beta tests. I remember when that was like the exclusive...
Sign up for the beta.
I remember when that was like the exclusive of all exclusive things. You're just out there flexing on your friends because you got picked for a beta test.
You know what? That's actually going to be my biggest push for PC. And I can't believe I saved it for last, but I did. Indie development.
Yep.
You can get indie games on PC 18 different ways. Ain't a whole lot of indie development going on in the Xbox.
You can play pretty much any retro game made on a PC.
On a PC.
If you're a big fan of like 8-bit retro gaming, you can definitely find a port for it on PC.
Well, with that, guys, I know we're getting close to the end of the episode, so we do need to get to downsides for PC gaming. I'll jump in first. It's fucking expensive.
Yeah, your initial investment to get a good gaming PC is always going to be way higher than a console. But again, it's like comparing a Mustang to a Lamborghini, right? The Mustang's nice. This Lamborghini's definitely faster. You know what I mean? And it also depends on the extent of your gaming. I feel like if you're a super casual, like pick it up, put it down player, consoles are definitely the way you should go.
100%.
If you were a deep dive, hardcore, I'm on all the time, like perpetually online person, PC's definitely the route. I think long term, short term, you're going to spend more money on PC. I think long term, you can save a little more money because you can upgrade a piece at a time.
Yep.
And those pieces are going to last longer, especially if you do the big upgrades. So like, you know, you get rid of a used graphics card, you can sell it for like a little bit of money. You're not going to get a great deal on it, right? But it's better than the GameStop trade-in value for your Xbox. If anybody's old enough to know what that was like, where you're like, new console's coming out, I'm taking my old one and getting $15 of in-store credit. And so you can really increase the longevity of a PC, but upfront, man, it is a very, very expensive thing. And if you're not on top of your updates, like upgrades, as soon as you fall behind, it is so much harder to get caught back up, because then you have to start looking into whether or not you need to upgrade your entire chassis to go with whatever upgrade you're getting. So then you have problems with backwards compatibility of parts. Like, for instance, like if you just fell out of PC gaming and then tried to get back into it, if all of a sudden your mounting port for your graphics card is not gonna fit, you're gonna have to change the chassis. And if you change the chassis, you're gonna have to change a ton of other parts to go with it, and that turns into a very big time sink. So if you're not, like I said, right on top of those upgrades when they're needed, you can really hurt yourself financially trying to get an upgrade.
What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, actually, so the upgrade is a deal. This is my perspective on it. It is more expensive to get a decent PC in on entry than it is a console right now. To the point where the cost of the consoles, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the cost of the consoles is almost equal to just a graphics card right now. PCs are not in a great place to get into PC building. Everything's extremely expensive and difficult to find. However, under normal circumstances,
it has gotten better.
It has gotten better.
It's not as bad as it was. The height of COVID was absolutely the worst for it.
Oh yeah,
people were.
But you had gold and copper problems. You had all kinds of stuff working against them at the time.
We gotta stay on topic.
In any case, so
this is topic. We're talking about PC part upgrades.
When you're looking at PC upgrades, it can seem very, very daunting, because when you look at things like CPUs and GPUs, and like Travis said, your chassis, you need some expertise to do it, and they are not cheap individually. However, compared to getting vampired by Xbox, the amount of money that I've spent in just Xbox Live, if I throw Game Pass into that, because I use Game Pass so both my girls can play video games, the cost I've spent on Xbox Live and Game Pass up to this point, I could have bought a new PC. And so it is smaller amounts of money at once. Yes, it's $60 a month, but month after month that continues to edge in, and to the point where, like right now, I was talking with Travis on parts. I'm going to give you guys a comparison. My PC is one that I've done exactly what Travis talked about. It cost me $900 to put it together in 2016. Since then, I've incrementally upgraded pieces here and there. I've at a point now where I need to increase my my CPU, which will mean a new motherboard, which means a new chassis, which means a new domino effect of parts. My GPU, my graphics card, is okay, but I was looking at my replacements, and I'm looking at a 9060, which ranges between $440 and $460, or the next one up, which is the 5070 RTX from GeForce, which is $990 to $1,069.
You can get a 5050 for $200.
5050 is $590 right now.
Really? I'm looking at it right here on mine. I'm found one on Newegg, 5050.
Oh, I'm on Tom's Hardware right now.
Yeah.
But in any case, it can get very, very frustrating when it comes to parts for availability and cost, because you're at the whims of a market with a huge group of people clawing at it. So yeah.
So the next thing I want to get into that's a downside for your PC is issues that can happen from updates. So
yep.
The big thing with PC is that there's drivers for everything. There's updates for everything. So it's not as easy to fix something that goes wrong on your PC like it is with your console. So when you update PC, a lot of times you have to update for individual games sometimes with your graphics card. Like my NVIDIA, literally each game that I install, I have to install something with NVIDIA for that game, which is fine. I don't mind doing that as long as there's no issues. Because then if there's an issue, a lot of times you got to uninstall everything and then reinstall it, so it just has the brand new updates and has none of the old ones. So in regards to PC, that's another downside. That's why we mentioned tech savvy stuff. Yes, all this is on YouTube. You can easily find videos to troubleshoot everything. So I'm not saying
wildly,
that it's hard to see that.
There's also a lot of very helpful Reddit pages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't go too deep into Reddit. You get into weird stuff. Don't go too deep.
And weirder people.
With PC, that is a nice thing with PC now is it's easier to find learning material to fix, upgrade, anything you want to do with PC. So while I still consider it a big downside because it's more time consuming if something goes wrong, some people don't consider that a downside anymore just because it's so easy to get the information to fix it. So for me, that one's kind of a 50-50 for you if it's a problem or not.
The ease of accessibility to like how to fix consoles is much, or not consoles, PCs is much better than when, I mean, all three of us first really got into gaming.
Yep.
If you didn't know how to fix a PC or didn't know someone who knew how to fix a PC, you were running blind, and it was just kind of a learn as you go thing.
Shout out Bryce.
Really, yeah, our IT specialist Bryce, which was a big downside for me at not being a very tech literate person in regards to PCs. It was hard for me to try, even to attempt PC gaming, just because I was so far out of touch with it, and that's why I preferred consoles. Again, making the switch, again having access to the little device I keep in my pocket that lets me access the internet. Yeah, it's become way less daunting. I don't feel quite so overwhelmed.
You know what? I'm actually going to bring up one more when it comes to updates and stuff, and this was one that is kind of near and dear to us here at Crossing the Nerdverse, and that's going to be major PC updates. You're going to find a lot of people, if you get deep enough, that are talking about Windows versus Linux versus a whole bunch of these operating systems and that kind of stuff. If you are streaming in particular, an update for a major operating system, such as the big push to Windows 11 right now, can completely ass end your entire setup. You can go from streaming every day, doing it great, making it your job, and Microsoft can push through one update for Windows that'll nuke your entire thing. And you got to go through in there and weed it all out. And you know what? And as far as downsides go, I'll be the one to say it. PCs are pushy. They don't like you using old stuff. They don't like you using different hardware. They want you on the edge.
The good news is, like, why that is a downside, and I agree that that's rough. That one thing will just cause a series of failures, or your game that you have been playing hardcore to lock up. Again, going back to that ease of information, within 15 minutes of a problem occurring, if it happens for you, it's probably happened for somebody else. There's going to be a help page one quick Google search away.
Yep.
And while it might be a pain to go through the step-by-step process to fix it, it is nice to know that there's people out there that are experts that will immediately post a thread on Reddit or the game page, or even on Steam sometimes, where it's like, hey, here's a bug I've experienced. Here's how I fixed it. Follow steps 1 through 5, and this will get you back on track. So that is great.
You will also experience people that will tell you how they fixed it, and it simply doesn't work for you. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Just keep trudging. I know we're getting close to the end.
Find another post where someone has a different experience and got theirs fixed. So,
I do want to cover one last thing before we get to the end. Eric, what you got?
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, PC gaming is like having a girlfriend. Console gaming is like having a boyfriend. PC gaming is very complicated. There's a lot to it. It's very difficult. And console gaming is very basic and it's easy to use. So I feel like that's pretty much, if you want to break it down to the very minute way of explaining it, that's it. At the end of the day, that's truly the best way to do it.
I feel like that's a weird comparison.
Well, and it gets odd because what I want to bring up before we end the episode does not mesh well with Eric's flagrant sexism. I want to get into gaming integrity and fair play. And this is something that comes up. Everybody's always worried about it. I want to be the one to address it. Yes, it is easier to get cheating software on PC. It is.
It links directly to the internet. Yeah, you just open up Chrome and poof.
It is harder to get cheating software and cheating stuff on console. Consoles are kind of enclosed environment. PCs are not. With PCs, you can get everything. And that's where you get the joke post of like, on Xbox, we have this game and these exclusives, and we have these protections in place. And the PC is like, yeah, we don't. We have porn games. So, yeah, gaming integrity and fair play, guys. On PC, you're going to find more cheaters. It's true. However, I find that most of the major studios and major companies right now are investing an incredible amount of time, money, and effort into anti-cheat. And
there's a lot of, to the extent where I think, was it Bungie hired their own anti-cheat division, where that's all they do is investigate cheating, and they've actually gotten pretty sharp at picking people out pretty fast.
Survive to kind of answer your deal about Nintendo. Here's the thing. I'm gonna be the one of the three of us that is the.
It's weird in the corner.
It's weird in the corner, yeah. I am a open Nintendo hater. I have not bought a single Nintendo product since the Game Boy Advance. Oh, that's a lie. I had a 3DS. I bought a Game Boy 3DS. I don't like the way Nintendo has such a wall around their industry. Indie development for Nintendo is at an all-time low. The games market is stagnant. It's the same 16 people that keep making your games for Nintendo. And if you make anything that smells like one of their products, they'll come down on you with as much force as they possibly can muster.
But I need a new Mario Party game.
Yeah. That being said, Pokemon.
I'm out on Pokemon. Mario Party is where it's at.
Zelda, and I actually play Mario Party with my kids a lot.
I love Mario Party.
I still love Nintendo. I think they've got some great stuff. It will be hard pressed to find somebody that hates them as much as I hate them, and their wildly draconic business practice.
Here's a fun party game to play, or drinking game, I should say, to play with. No, here's a good drinking game to play with Mario Party. Every time something bad happens to you, take a shot.
Then you don't care as much.
You don't care as much, but you're definitely going to be drunk because that is one of the most cutthroat games.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so one last thing we got to talk about, because we've done PC and console. We have to mention real quick the new handheld systems that are kind of making PC better. So Steam Deck, I think, was the big first one to do it. Now you have the ROG Ally that's also
Nintendo was first. They're
I mean,
their mobile gaming or not mobile in the sense of
mobile gaming means something different now.
As in
their handheld
moving
gaming.
around. Their handheld gaming has been better than everyone all the time.
Forever.
Yeah, but not anywhere near though. Like when Steam Deck came out, like it blows it out of the water. Like it doesn't even. It's not even
you're going to compare
close.
Steam Deck to the Switch, and the Switch will make you lose.
Yep.
The Switch is nowhere near what Steam Deck does, and the library on Steam Deck is ridiculous.
I'll give you the library.
Now, I haven't played an Ally. Oh no, Steam Deck's way better than.
Yeah, I'll give you the
even
library.
if you look up the specs, for Nintendo and a Steam Deck. You'll see Steam Deck's better.
Listen, here's the thing. I know the specs on paper look the way they do. As someone who has used a Steam Deck next to hand with a Nintendo Switch, the Switch is smoother, easier to use, more intuitive.
Steam Deck's just
now.
Looks
don't
nicer,
get me wrong.
The graphics are better.
I wish I was wrong. I do.
Triple. The difference is triple.
Yeah, like Steam Deck blows it out of the water.
Steam Deck 4 million.
Like
Switch 2, 18 million.
Yeah. So quadruple.
Switch is also cheaper.
And
Switch
yet didn't outsell
performance.
The Switch.
No, I'm saying Switch is cheaper. I'm saying Switch is cheaper. But if you look at specs, gameplay, everything else, like that's what I mean. It's a new way they're starting.
That doesn't always make the difference on whether or not a console or handheld device sells well.
No, Nintendo will always.
You had the failure of the Sega Dreamcast that was hardware-wise better than every other console, and it still died.
Yeah, you'll see Steam Deck though, and the Ally will start beating Nintendo.
Doubtful.
You will see it. It will. It'll have a lot more sales because it's an easier way to get into the PC market. Because you get that access to Steam that's portable, and they sell a docking station so you can put it on a TV or a monitor.
You get one with the Switch too.
Here's the actual.
But it's only Nintendo games. Your games are very limited. It's like 10% of what you can get on a Steam Deck.
Here's what you actually get for specs. All right, Switch compared to the Steam Deck. Switch is a 7.9-inch LCD 1080 120 hertz screen. The Steam Deck is a 7.4-inch OLED 800p 90 hertz screen. So it screens shittier. All right. CPU, GPU, custom NVIDIA Tegra T239 Ampere. I don't actually know what that means. Versus the Steam Deck's AMD Zen 2 RDNA 2 Aerith. And so your CPU and GPU are better on the Switch. Internal storage. Let's go memory first. Memory 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, 16 gigabytes on the Steam Deck of the same stuff, but it's the older edition. It's the LPDDR5 versus the LPDDR5X. So they get a little more of the older stuff. Internal storage, Steam Deck also wins in this category with 256 gigabytes UFS versus 512 gigabytes or terabyte NVWMe SSD. So solid state. Battery capacity, again, Steam Deck gets it. 5,220 versus 6,470 mAh. The difference between about 2 to 6 hours on Switch versus 3 to 12 hours on the Steam Deck. And the Switch is heavier, or the Switch is lighter by 0.3 pounds. So as far as performance, as far as performance and specifications, the Switch outdoes the Steam Deck in every regard, except for memory storage and battery life. That's it.
Yep. And it's cheaper.
And it's cheaper. It is cheaper by a lot. By an epic amount.
Like I said, it's gonna be rough to catch Nintendo on a handheld device ever.
Yeah.
PlayStation tried it twice.
Actually, I'm curious. The Nintendo Switch 2 is currently available for $450. What's the Steam Deck at right now?
I don't know off the top.
I'm looking it up right now.
Between 400 and 650.
Oh, so the price comparable even.
Yep.
And so right now, Steam Deck loses to the Switch, man.
Yeah, the Switch 2, again, just going off raw sales numbers alone, 4 million versus 17 million.
So yeah, handheld gaming's weird. I think Nintendo's always going to dominate in that field because
the numbers don't lie, and they spell doom for you as sacrifice, Samoa Joe.
But yeah, no, I think that Nintendo during the console wars took unclaimed territory in regards to handheld gaming. They had a wild amount of success with the Game Boy Color, and they continued in that trend.
Yeah.
With the 3DS, the 2DS,
crushing it.
Yeah. And then the Switch dominates. I don't think they're going to change that anytime soon. They're putting all of their research, development, and money into handheld gaming to the point where their new consoles, the Switch and the Switch 2, are handheld consoles.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be hard to beat them in that front.
It's going to take a lot to unthrone Nintendo for a gaming device. I'm
surprised at the cost because I thought Steam Deck was loads cheaper than a Switch, and hearing that it's not is wild.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, neck and neck. Yeah, you have access to a greater library through the Steam Deck.
That's true.
That's
100%.
fair. Like
frame rates are better with Steam Decks.
Nope, they're not.
They're not.
Their frame rates are 120 hertz on the Switch versus 90 hertz on the Steam Deck.
I'm just trying to look it up because I don't know parts.
So
if you talk parts to me, like I don't know it as well. I'm just looking it up.
It's one of those things that specifications wise, the Steam Deck does not hold up. It is an inferior system.
Yeah,
but it has access to the Steam library.
It does have access to the Steam library, which is huge, right? That's a huge library.
That's a huge library have
access to.
With indie development. I'm gonna throw out one more time.
Yeah, you're just gonna struggle bus it to catch Nintendo, no matter how good your handheld device is.
Oh yeah,
you're going to struggle to catch Nintendo. Nintendo is dominant right now, and unless there's a gigantic change or shakeup, it's not going to change. And if the Steam Deck was going to do it, it would have done it by now.
I think we'll have to wait and see with Steam Deck 2. Steam Deck original was their first go at it. So with the second one, we're going to see what they do. But I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's perfectly fine to be loyal to the Steam Deck and hope that it does well. I actually hope it does well too.
It's fine to have a preference between the two if you prefer the Steam Deck over the Switch 2. That's also super fine, right? No, like I'm not going to argue anybody on their personal preference in regards to whether they're a console, a PC, a Switch 2 gamer, a phone gamer, a hardcore avid collector of tiny pieces of cardboard that they fling onto a table with other people.
Shh.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up, but the main point of bringing it all up though was the fact that it's easier now for people to get into PC gaming.
Oh,
So
for
when you
sure.
look at
It
the
is.
Ally
It is.
and the Steam Deck, like that's a much easier entry level thing for you to do to get into PC gaming, because even if you buy the lower end Steam Deck or the Ally, it's easy to upgrade the memory with just a little. I can't even think of what they're called off the top of my head for some
SDs.
reason.
An SD card.
SD card. So
So
even
I
when you buy
actually
the low end one, you could just slam in an SD card. Literally, just slide it right in. There's no having to install something fancy or anything like that. And I know the Switch has SD card too, but
well,
like
but
with
here's
the
the
big
kicker:
systems,
you're not wrong,
is
because the Steam Deck you can just put an SD card in it. The Switch you have to get a micro SD Express. And so the ease of peripherals definitely is edge to the Steam Deck.
Aftermarket accessory is still going to go to Nintendo.
Yeah, aftermarket, yeah. But ease of peripherals, yeah.
So, but with that, we're going to have to wrap
Yeah.
this episode up.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, again, this all boils down to your own personal preference on what you prefer. If you are a console gamer, if you are a PC gamer, if you are a handheld, mobile, board gamer, an avid player of online
Whatever.
written forums via sandbox gaming,
It's old
all right.
Zork days.
yeah, Wonton Wicked, like
Yeah.
old school stuff. However you want to do it.
Yep. And guys, if you listen this far, obviously you're enjoying what you're hearing. If you're feeling especially generous, guys, give us a like, give us a follow, comment down below with your thoughts on PC versus console gaming. And I want to remind everybody, our new merch is up on the store, and it's pretty kick-ass, man.
And
Still
with
gonna
that,
get it.
we're going to bring this episode to a close. We are crossing the Nerdverse, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
See y'all.
Goodbye.
I'm not going to do it.
Oh, sad face.
You're gonna disappoint all the fans.
It's nice to say goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.